there seems to be a lot of love flowing around the Bears in terms of, how good Justin Fields is, how committed he is, how much the offensive coordinator likes him. Fields likes his guys. Darnell Mooney and he have this bromance. I mean, there's a lot of kind of feel good because we haven't seen a game yet. Will that change if he plays significant time on Saturday? What are you expecting? I just can't tell yet. I keep hearing that his footwork's better, but it seems to me that all that has to do with when plays break down. What about his ability to just drop and throw and get rid of the ball on time and not pad it? I see him pad it sometimes.
So a couple things here, Mully. First thing being that I'm not using Saturday as any sort of major litmus test because Justin's going to play a series. He may play two. And if you've looked at the state of the Bears receiving core, I don't know who he's throwing to on Saturday in those possessions that he's actually in the game because they are so beat up right now. And it's basically Darnell Mooney and Equinemius St. Brown. And then as Matt Eberflus said to Herb Howard in the news conference yesterday, can you play receiver, right? Like that's how desperate their search is right now for receivers. The other part of this that you bring up that I think is super notable for us to keep a pulse on here in the next month. I'm done checking the boxes for Justin's hunger. I'm done checking the boxes for his drive, for the way he leads his teammates. Now I want to see Justin make plays, right? And I want to see him first make plays in practice more regularly. They have not come consistently enough in practice for my liking. I want to see him showing that he's got a command and an ownership of this offense that we talked about when camp began that needs to be there if this offense is going to go up a level. And there's just been way, way, way too many instances in this training camp to this point where plays are ending with Justin on the run, tucking the ball, and then taking off, right? And you can't build a successful NFL offense in that way. And so this is a problem. Last week there was a sequence several times where Justin broke the pocket, got outside, and all of a sudden he was throwing a shovel pass to a check down or sort of an option flip. And a couple times it got a little dangerous. And I kind of pushed Matt Eberflus on how do you allow for the creativity while still coaching the caution. And it was more Matt's look than his response that told me, oh, yeah, we're aware that this is kind of an issue and we're going to have to rein a little bit of that in because if the hits principle includes taking care of the football, well, then you can't get sloppy and a little bit careless and a little bit over reckless when you're on the move trying to improvise and make plays because then that's going to put us in a disadvantageous situation and we're going to be climbing uphill. So really, I think that, between whatever action he gets in the preseason and even, I think we've got 13 more camp practices, Justin's got to show that he's capable of consistently making plays and also consistently making plays that make your jaw drop a little bit and say, yep, that's the brilliance that we all think is inside of him.
Dan, back to Roquan for a moment. How much does the fact that the Bears aren't ready to win now affect their willingness or ability to compromise their position? And also factor into that Ryan Poles, his reluctance to want to establish a precedent when you have a player challenging him publicly, basically to stand up for the franchise.
Well, David, the first part of that is it certainly lessens how loud that deadline clock ticks, right? Because you're not expecting to make a run to the Super Bowl this year. And so, say this drags out into September, say Roquan misses a game or two. Does it really set your program back? Not significantly when you're a general manager and you're trying to look at the big picture on how to build a championship roster. I think the conversation of precedent, which you bring up, is a very good one, especially for a new GM. And that goes two ways, right? You want to make sure that you're firm enough as a general manager to show people that you're not going to be pushed around, but you also can't develop a reputation within the league of being hard. And Roquan is not the first one in this offseason to criticize this Bears regime. And then, listen, this includes Matt Feinstein and Cliff Stein, who are instrumental in some of the contract negotiation up there at Hallis Hall. And Roquan used, I think, take it or leave it was in his statement. And that's not the first person that has used that either publicly or privately in regards to the way that this regime has negotiated, either with rookies or with guys they talk to in free agency. And if you start developing a reputation as being a little bit hard to deal with in contract negotiations, well, then when you have $100+ million worth of a cap room and you're trying to make a big push at stars to push you over the top, you might have a little bit more of a challenge. So that's why I say that precedent thing goes two ways in learning how you can be rigid without being so rigid that other people go, man, I don't really want to do business with them.
We've talked about the issues they have at wide receiver. Do they have any healthy corners? How healthy are the guys playing the slot? And Kyler Gordon missed time in the off-season program. Is there worry about him being able to hold up for an NFL season?
I don't have worry, but I have concern. Yeah. And it's like one rung below worry, right? Like you're at that point where you say, man, 4 straight practices he's missed. Going back to the spring where he missed the mini camp and parts of OTAs because he was nicked up. Now you're talking about this is probably gonna limit or keep him out completely on Saturday for that first preseason game. And so, yeah, that concern is very legitimate. It's going to elevate to worry in a couple weeks if he's not back on the field and able to put together a string of 4 or 5 consecutive practices without a setback. And so that's an issue because listen, Duke Shelley's also been banged up. Tavon Young's also been banged up. And so now you're mixing and matching at that nickel position where DeAndre Houston-Carson has been taking reps in there. You've got Jalen Jones, who's an undrafted rookie, who's been getting some looks in there this week out of necessity. And now you're scrambling again at the corner position. I think, Mully, overall, I think the secondary has been one of the more impressive parts of the Bears during camp because I think the chemistry between Eddie Jackson and Jaquan Brisker has been terrific. I think Jalen Johnson is emerging as a very respected voice and a guy that, obviously he's got to make more plays on the ball and increase his interception total, but looks like a very legitimate starter for a ways to come. And now you've got to figure out ways to solidify things around there. And that Gordon injury is certainly on my sheet. It's circled in pen and there's a highlighter on it. And we're going to keep tabs on that until he's back on the field.
Dan, they need bodies at wide receiver with the injuries to Harry and maybe Pringle to a lesser degree, but any veterans out there, maybe there's Cole Beasley, there's Will Fuller, there's T.Y. Hilton, all names of guys who have either been injured or are still available for reasons. But what do you think about the Bears going after somebody like that?
I mean, they're not in a position to be picky, right? And I think they can monitor this over the next couple of weeks and see how these injuries kind of materialize. Obviously, the Harry one looks like it's going to push into the regular season. We got to figure out how quickly Byron Pringle can get back. Velus Jones has been missing practice time last week. Dante Pettis is missing time. So to your point, right, like they need help, and you're not in a position to be picky because you need to give your franchise quarterback or the guy you believe who can be the franchise quarterback weapons. And right now you're going to try to look at your roster and figure out if there's some guys that can emerge if given greater opportunity. But ultimately you've got to have your eyes everywhere, right? You have to have your guys on street free agents. You have to have your eyes on guys who are going to get cut at the end of the month or in early September to maybe claim on the waiver wire and bring in here and see if they can get up to speed and help your offense take the steps that the offense has been trying to take for 30 years.
Dan, yeah, good luck with that. We know they play a game on Saturday afternoon, so I'm only bringing this up for that point because Dave Tobe is on the other sideline. He had great success here. I'm just wondering, I haven't heard anyone talk about what you're seeing on special teams, if you're seeing anything. Obviously a new punter, obviously, maybe new return guys. We're looking around at every other element. How do they look special teams wise?
Well, Bigsy and I spent some time the other day watching Cairo kick. Some of it was indoors in the Payton Center, and boy, Cairo Santos looks like he's picking up right where he left off. So if you want to have a sigh of relief that your kicker seems to be in good shape heading into 2022, there you go. There's your positive news. I think on the special teams front, Mully, I think these next couple weeks with the preseason games is going to kind of give us a clearer picture of the guys they really value in there. And I think especially with a new regime trying to figure out, okay, how are we filling out the rosters and who can help us a little bit here, but also be a core piece of our special teams. I think we're going to get a lot of good information on Saturday. And then when they go to Seattle and then when they finish in Cleveland about who they are and what they value. And so that's kind of a wait and see question for me. Right. I think the kicking operations are good, but that now we've got to see what Richard Hightower and his coverage units are all about, and I think we need a little bit of game action to feel that out more.
Dan, I wondered aloud last segment whether or not Matt Nagy, what the over/under would be on hugs with former players. I didn't consider former reporters who covered him. Is that going to be a welcome sight to see Matt Nagy?
You're not allowed on the field, Dan.
Listen, like there was some talk in the press room the other day. Matt, I don't know if he's an on the field guy now in his role with the Chiefs, or if he's going to be up, on the upper levels of the suites in the coaching booth where you might run across him, run into the bathroom or pregame or whatnot. And so, listen, I've got no bad blood toward Matt Nagy. I thought he was a good guy to cover. I think the results speak for themselves. I think Matt is very well aware that The results helped lead him to the trapdoor, right? And it's the reason he's taken 2 steps back into an old role in Kansas City. It'll be weird for him, I think, probably to walk back in that building on Sunday and have those moments of reflection of the things that went really well in 2018 and then haywire the following 3 years. And I'm sure that's got to still kind of nod at him inside, and we'll see how he handles that.